Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Buy and Sell. My name is Braxton from Angle Fantasy Basketball, and I hope everyone had a great week. And I hope you're ready for some deep cuts this week in our Buy and Sell. Got some really exciting guys that I guess, frankly, I'm really excited to talk about. So, number one this week is going to be Tumani Kamara. He is somebody who I've spoken about at least a couple times now. Over the last 2 weeks, he's ranking number 126, which is not the best, not necessarily jumping off the page. But some of the things I really like is one, he's on Portland, who Jeremy Grant has returned. Seeing Kamara with this big role still after the return has been really awesome. Remains to be seen if he continues that 30 plus minute role with Grant back in the lineup. But it does seem like the Blazers are really excited about him and are really prioritizing his development right now. And then two, he's really he's a stocks monster. Over the last 2 weeks, he's averaging 2 steals per game and 1 block per game. Those blocks are not going to stick. That's not really like been his forte, but the steals out of the forward spot for him have been exceptional. I love his game. I think he's super undervalued. Now I will preface this and say, he has not shot the ball well. Okay. So over the last 2 weeks, it's 38%. From the field and 68% from the line on decent volume for both. So he's taking almost 11 shots per game and he's getting to the line, or excuse me, he's taking about 3 free throws a game. So that's not insignificant. Right. But if you can eat those percentages in your build, the 1.6 threes per game plus the 12 points per game, which is nice, which might tick down slightly, but the 1.6 threes per game plus the 2 steals and the 1 block, I think is really exceptional, especially in a low end guy towards the bottom of your roster in 12 team leagues or even in dynasty leagues. He's 29% rostered on Yahoo. I still think that's too low. I think he's somebody, and again, this is really only if you can take the percentages, right? Like if you have quite a big man build, or excuse me, a build that's very reliant on big man stats, he may not be the best fit. He could fit getting those out of position steals, especially if you're punting assists or something like that. It really just comes down to whether or not you're able to eat those percentages. But he is somebody I'm definitely buying in dynasty leagues. I feel like his trajectory is pointed up, especially in the event of I don't think Jeremy Grant's going to get traded, but in the event of a Deandre Ayton trade, I think that could help. Not that he's going to play any center or anything like that, right? But having Klingon and maybe Rob Williams splitting those minutes, there could be more rebounds to go around, just depending on who Tumani is sharing the floor with. So Kamara, somebody I'm really liking right now, and I would go out and grab him if he's available, and he fits. So number two is going to be Bryce Sensabaugh. Another guy, a little bit of a deeper cut this time. He's number 133 over the last 2 weeks. Not jumping off the page, but he has really impressed me with his scoring ability. Now, I know previously I have spoken to guys like DeAndre Hunter and Jonathan Kuminga who don't do anything besides score. And them being overvalued. But the reason I'm liking Sensabaugh here is because you're getting like that over the last 2 weeks, I should say, or preface this with, you're getting that DeAndre Hunter or that Jonathan Kuminga value with the points and the threes. Kuminga not so much for the threes, but you're getting it at a discount price, right? So only 12% rostered on Yahoo leagues, in Yahoo rather, I should say, and 26 minutes per game over the last 2 weeks. Now, I know John Collins has been out. It'll be curious to see his role when Collins returns. Sensabaugh isn't playing a ton of the four, but Collins just kind of being on the floor and taking him some usage is not the best for him. Now, Jordan Clarkson does have a torn plantar fascia, as I spoke to last week with Isaiah Collier. I'm not entirely sure if Clarkson's going to be returning this season. They haven't really given a lot of information regarding that. And if he doesn't, that would be huge for Sensabaugh, as he can kind of find himself in a role as that microwave scorer that Clarkson is leaving, right? So 3.3 threes per game over the last 2 weeks, 19.3 points, which is pretty awesome. 2.5 boards and 2 assists per game. Not great. And also the turnovers are a little bit high over the last 2 weeks at 2.3 per game with the only the 2 assists. So he does have some flaws in his game. Defensively, he's probably not there yet. But there's definitely a place for him on a lot of fantasy teams. And also, he's shooting 48% from the field on 15 shots per game. That's pretty significant. And somebody who's jacking up a lot of threes like this and putting up a lot of shots, shooting 48% is definitely not something you'd want to overlook. I think it's definitely something helpful. And there should be a place for Sensible. And if he's available in your Dynasty League, he's somebody I really like. He is benefiting, like I said, from a lot of the Jazz injuries. I know Laurie's been out. John Collins has been out. Taylor Hendricks has the broken leg, obviously. But if Sensible, it's very possible Sensible, from a dynasty perspective, could play himself into a role even beyond this year if he continues this strong play. So Sensible, take a look at him and see if he's available in your Dynasty League. Number three is going to be, and this might surprise some people, I'm going to say Bruce Brown. So Bruce Brown has been outside the top 200 over the last 2 weeks. So, kind of slow your roll here. This is not somebody I'm saying you need to run to your waiver wire and grab. He's capped at about 20 minutes per game for now. But, even with that, over the last 4 games, he's averaged 9.5 points, about 5 rebounds, 1.3 assists, zero point 0.8 steals, and he's also hitting a 3 per game. And he's also shooting 40% from three. That's over the last 4 games. And definitely not worth, or I should say, not insignificant, those numbers. If you're going to go out and grab Bruce Brown in a deeper league, definitely not a pickup outside of like, um, I honestly, you could probably justify the pickup in 14 team leagues if you're in good standing. Definitely somebody you should look at in a 16 teamer or deeper. Also in a dynasty league where, kind of vets like this sometimes fall through the cracks and sit on waivers for a little bit. He did just pop off for 17 points in his last game. If you grab him, it's not for his outlook rest of season in Toronto. You are rooting for a trade because Toronto is obviously not prioritizing him or won't be, I guess, down the stretch. There's Toronto's already doing some kind of silly season stuff. So, you are rooting for a trade for Bruce to a contending team where he can play like a 24 to 26 minute role. But I'm sure you guys I'm sure you guys remember. I mean, he's such a fun player to roster if he's playing solid minutes. He's basically a big in the guard slot. And really just somebody to keep your eye on. Like I said, not if he stays in Toronto, not somebody I'm liking, but definitely trending up right now, and there's not really any discussion about him. He's only 2% roster in Yahoo leagues. So he should be available in just about every league. Definitely throw him on your watch list if you're in a shallower league, like a 12 or a 10, 14 to 16. Maybe grab him. And then next is going to be Keon Johnson. So the Nets have been kind of in silly season mode now for a few weeks. I mean, the Cam Thomas being out has opened up a lot of usage for a lot of guys. Tyrese Martin has been another beneficiary. I like Keon Johnson over Tyrese Martin, I should say, because one, he's younger, which younger doesn't necessarily equal better, but he's more of a developmental project than Tyrese Martin could be. I could see Keon Johnson kind of sticking on this Nets team moving forward, even beyond this year, where Tyrese Martin kind of feels like somebody who's benefiting from the injuries right now. And then also, Keon Johnson is demonstrated the ability to rack up peripheral stats a little bit more than Tyrese Martin. So, over the last 2 weeks, he's shooting 39% from the field on almost 12 shots per game, which is notable and is pretty significant. So again, this is just like Kamara. This is another guy where you need to be able to eat this field goal percentage if you want to roster him in a category league. But his stats: 2 threes per game, 13 points, 2.4 boards, 3 assists. Or almost 3 assists, I should say. He has been better than that on this season. That is kind of brought down. And again, this is just because I'm looking at for these. I look at the last 2 weeks, just because we're viewing like trending up and down. But he did have a 0 assist game a couple games ago where he played lower minutes, so that's kind of dragging that number down a little bit. But he has shown the ability to rack up 6 or 7 assists on a nightly basis, so that's something to keep in mind there as well. And then also the steals at 1.6 per game is pretty awesome. And he's only rostered in 12% of Yahoo leagues, and is definitely somebody I think could be rostered in 12 teamers if you're punting field goal percentage. It's hard to find the assists and the steals on the waiver wire. And, Keon Johnson is doing those. Ben Simmons is somebody who, is barely playing right now. Cam Thomas is still out. So maybe when the Nets get a little bit healthier, Keon Johnson could take a hit. It remains to be seen. It's going to be Johnson or Tyrese Martin who loses out the most from a Cam Thomas return. I would wager to say it's Tyrese Martin, even though I have more Tyrese Martin shares. Again, just because of the situation and how they were brought in. I believe the Nets claimed Keon Johnson on waivers in the preseason. So, they showed that they were somewhat interested in him as a piece even before these injuries. So that's something that stands out to me as well. And in dynasty leagues, definitely a piece that I think could help beyond this season if he continues to play the way that he does. Right, the are really just looking for players that are going to stick. Now, Cam Johnson being traded, depending on who comes back in a deal like that, could affect Keon Johnson. If they get somebody back in the deal who could play above him, that could affect him. But when Cam Johnson gets traded, hopefully, I guess I should say for the Nets and Nets fans, that should open up even more usage for Keon, depending on who comes back. And then also late in the season, the Nets have a pretty elite playoff schedule. I believe it's a 4-4-4 for most standard playoff form or playoff weeks, I should say. So that's very notable. And if the Nets are, continuing to be I hate using the word tanking because they just have a bad team. But if they continue to be terrible, and actually, let me point this out: Week 19, they do have a 5 game week, so they're the only team with a 5 game week that week. The Wizards did have one, but they lost out on the rescheduling from some of the wildfires. So the Nets not to say to grab Keon Johnson now for the 5 game week in week 19, right? But, that's definitely something that could help, especially if he continues to play at the level he has been and getting the usage he has been. So there's something to keep in the back of your mind as you continue down the season. And then I'll just throw a quick honorable mention to Nick Smith Jr. From the Hornets. The Hornets are actively shopping around per reports, which wouldn't necessarily improve his outlook immediately. But he is kind of redundant with Trey Mann on the team. Keep your eye on him as he's just re-entered the rotation and he just popped off 15 points last game. So keep an eye on Nick Smith Jr. And then moving on to the sells, it is going to be Deandre Ayton, who over the last 2 weeks is number 159, and he's only playing 26 minutes per game. Okay, so I've talked about DeAndre Ayton in the past. I hate that he doesn't shoot threes from a fantasy perspective. His free throw percentage is not nearly as high as it needs to be. And he's not even averaging a double-double over the last 2 weeks. He's barely averaging 10 points per game, and he has less than one block. So it's like, what is he doing for you besides rebounds? The answer is nothing. He's playing with no energy out there on the court. He seems like he doesn't want to be in Portland. I'm Klingon owners as well as Kamara owners, and also Aiden owners probably praying for a trade from him at this point. It's difficult for me to imagine who would be able to combine the salary together to trade for him. I guess maybe it's possible he's involved in some kind of like Nurkic trade where a team is getting Ayton and then there's salary combined with Nurkic plus salary on the team to Portland. That is possible, I suppose, but Ayton is playing without any passion right now. I'm very concerned as an owner if I was an owner. And I would wait until he has a nice string of games, if he does again, and look to trade him. He's not somebody I would have targeted in the preseason, but he has had some nice games this year, flirting with 2020 on a few times. But it seems like the Blazers are over it with his minutes coming down, and that they're ready to kind of have Klingon take on a bigger role. And Robert Williams is working his way into the rotation when he's able to now. So Ayton, He's not droppable yet. Maybe in an 8-team league, I would drop him. 10-team, he is awfully close, though. Very close. He's not helping you. And the Blazers have no reason to play him late in the season. Like, I also, the way I hate to use the word tanking, I don't think teams sit guys for fake injuries, but Ayton is about as risky as it gets when it comes to like a phantom injury. So, definitely something to keep in mind. And I'm not really liking Ayton for the rest of the season. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been your week 13 buy and sell. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Bluesky. Our podcasts are anywhere you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, Pocket Cast, if you use that. I believe it's on Amazon Music now as well. So really anywhere you get your audio content, we are on there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks. Bye.